I feel like it's going to come back and haunt us someday.
Well, I said thank you for not sharing the link so everyone can see our public playlist.
It'll just be for us.
I know what I'm doing now. Okay. So this, yes, I am way behind. This is book 2 for, and I don't know if it's coming out in August or September. I know we shifted.
September.
Oh, yeah. Oh, thank you. Because I know there was like a shift in people and I couldn't remember if I went up or what. So, book 2, Lindy is the twin at the end of the Christmas story. Lindy is pregnant, so they've been married 18 months. Bo has not told his family that because they're all about money and image. So she is going to, this is like all I have. She is going to find because she knows the name. So the good thing is, or the bad thing, she knows the names of the parents because they were teens. They had to give her up because I have totally figured out backstory, but like her dad was like a mean drunk or something. So Rachel and Mitch, the parents, knew the kids that were pregnant. So they knew where Lindy came from. They didn't know what happened to the kids. So she still has to track them down. She's going to find them and at any point you guys can go, maybe not. I figured about the worst thing, because she's the fashion conscious one. She likes money. She likes nice things. She designs clothes. Is she finds them in a trailer park in Kentucky. I don't want to offend Regina, so maybe Mississippi. Somewhere.
West Virginia.
West Virginia. Oh, okay. West Virginia. That's better. We don't have any of us in West Virginia. So she'll find them there in the trailer park. So number one, she goes on this search without Bo's permission. He took a promotion and they ended up having to move to North Carolina. So their marriage is a little rocky just because, he's kind of
didn't want to move, or did he not tell her about the promotion or something?
Yes.
Am I remembering right? Okay.
Yeah. So he had kind of sprung it on her, and so she said, at the end of the Christmas story, she's telling them, once we're moved, I need to find my birth parents because now I'm going to have a baby and I want to make sure everything's fine. And I want it to end with something is wrong with the baby, because then that's where Maggie comes in, because Maggie, the third sister, is the pediatric surgeon. I have no idea what that's going to be.
Well, if she's a pediatric surgeon, it could easily be something with their heart.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, another heart issue.
Or they could have something with their intestinal problems.
Okay.
Hip
So
dysplasia. That's my granddaughter had hip dysplasia. That wasn't.
That's true too.
Till later.
But did they do surgery on that?
When she was 4 or 5, because it kept.
Yeah, usually the babies they just put them in a.
Yeah.
Cast thing.
But there was indication, because we kept saying, well, why is this? Because she had like this, how little babies are, they have those little rolls of fat. Well, she had this like extra roll, and like is something, and they could say, no, she's fine. And of course she wasn't, because if they had done surgery or tried to fix it then, she wouldn't have had to go through all that when she was 4,
Yeah.
Horrible.
Hello.
Hey.
Hey, you got a haircut. That's
yes, more than one.
Wow.
He got a lot of hair. That's really cute.
Cute.
Yeah.
Okay,
like
so
my
oh, we all. Okay, so that's where the story will end, is because that'll bring Maggie in. There's some crisis with the baby. So, there's only about 25 chapters I have to fill here. So what, and I just hate tension. I'm a middle child and I'm a Minnesotan, so I really hate tension. So you guys gotta, throw it at me. So she's, to bring Eleanor up to speed, she's looking for her birth parents. She knows their name. They were a couple of kids back in the day. They're in West Virginia is where she tracks them down, living in like a trailer park. So they're white trash, which couldn't be any worse to tell Bo's parents.
Good for her, right?
Yeah. Yeah, well, yes, because she's a fashion plate. She loves her bling. She whatever. So her obviously part of her arc is going to be learning that you can have as much money in the world. That doesn't make you a good person. It doesn't. So she's going to learn that much. I know she'll learn some lessons about what real character is and things from them. Getting to know a different set of people that she would not have really wanted to, even associate with.
Has she romanticized what she thinks they're going to be before she finds out who they are or not? I mean, I'm just trying to think what she would have picked up from Michaela's experience as far as giving her a dose of reality that she may not find what she's expecting, or do you think she's thinking she is romanticizing it and thinking?
I would think she would certainly not expect to find them in a trailer park. So she's learned the lesson because Kenny was dead by the time Michaela got there. So she's leery maybe, but I don't think she'd because she'd know they were kids.
Okay.
They were teenagers when they had her. So,
but they ended up getting married and all.
Yeah.
But are they coarse people now?
Say what?
Are they coarse people?
Yeah. Except I can't really throw in 4-letter words or.
No, but like a hard
they could be
kind of redneck-ish.
Yeah.
They could be what?
A little hickish.
Yes, so maybe that's kind of coarse. They're kind of sort of redneck, hickish, backwoods kind of people. So they didn't finish high school.
But they're not nasty.
No. So they'll be, and I'm thinking they'll probably have some kind of faith because she's got to develop that line too. These sisters didn't grow up with faith. So they're so she's had some exposure to it now because of Michaela and because Rachel and Mitch kind of found their way back to church after, their family.
Are her birth parents going to be people of faith? Because that would make a big difference.
I think so.
So
Duck Dynasty.
Go ahead, Lorna. What?
Think Duck Dynasty kind of parents,
Oh.
that, what I mean? That.
Oh, Duck Dynasty, yeah.
Yeah. Maybe not everybody's seen it, but I was thinking that they were people of faith, but they are not. They have plenty of wisdom to share, but on first look, that probably isn't what you're.
Yeah, you kind of go, woo. But and then the wisdom that comes from that, and yes. Right. Okay, I like that, Duck Dynasty.
I like that too, because it's almost like they, you could pull it out that they have this wisdom that Bo's parents do not have, and that these other people that she thinks so highly of do not have. That there's a genuine authenticity. Okay, but, do they have children now too? So they got married and they have other adult children, I suppose, by now.
Yeah. So I'm thinking she's got what?
Well, I was thinking, wouldn't there then maybe be a little bit of, tension with her, because it's like, since you got married anyway, why didn't you keep me? And I'm glad you didn't keep me because I had this other really nice childhood instead, but still, why didn't you keep me? And I'm glad you didn't keep me, but I think we're feeling glad you didn't keep me, but really, why didn't you keep me? That kind of thing going on back and forth.
Okay.
I could see them thinking, could we say something like, we've been praying that you'd come find us.
Oh.
We pray for you every night, something where, and that might bring a lot of healing to her in the end. I mean, she could blow up at him, or she already got him fighting.
There's in themes of short stories, there's, I think, just 3 options. You can have man against man, man against nature, and man against himself. Is that right, Johnnie?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. So sometimes I go back to that when I'm looking for what can happen here. And I'm thinking, when you're saying these things, I'm thinking, there needs to be her against herself. She needs to come up against her own self and her own prejudices and
Yes.
maybe show her being nasty. I mean, where she is shown up by these people, she thinks less of. That's I don't know, dream something up, but
Yeah. So somehow it's kind of like, wasn't that Sweet Home Alabama? Didn't she go off and she was like, became some hot shot and then came back to town and
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so she has to come face to face with her own bias and her prejudice and how she's put her what she values is going to end up looking pretty empty.
Like maybe Beau's mother could meet this other woman. They would go dress shopping together or something, and it would just be a disaster for the girl. What's her name again?
Lindy.
Yeah, for Lindy. I mean,
yeah,
maybe a saleswoman could turn up her nose at this woman who is maybe not dressed appropriately for it, or something. And then she responds kindly and sweetly.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. I was wondering, because she has a kind of a fashion design sense, obviously she's been designing things, so it's got to come from mom or dad. It doesn't have to, but I'm thinking, could bio mom design something? Could she be designing
crocheted pot holders?
Yeah, I was thinking aprons or something that then Lindy could turn into an actual, because she's kind of breaking off and wanting to start her own line, not necessarily she doesn't want to be a high-end fashion desiginer, but to be able to design her own stuff. So somehow she sees that. Maybe
she gets it from her dad, who's a wood carver, or maybe he welds cool things very artistically, old junk into really great pieces of art or something.
Okay.
Or she could do jewelry. The mom could make jewelry pieces out of things.
And maybe both
like
of them.
repurposing old jewelry or something.
Yeah.
Oh.
Because that would be kind of a
sailor.
Yeah, and what do they call that? Something chic, like
shabby chic.
Yeah, shabby chic.
It almost seems like too, like if I'm going back to expectations, like if her, like she's trying to manage expectations before she meets them. But, knowing they were teenagers, maybe she kind of expects to go in and maybe be their savior. And then here to come to find out, yeah, they're, they may be living in a trailer park or whatever, or a small house, but you know what? They don't need her to save them because they're happy and they're making a life for themselves and they're very content and well-adjusted.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, just because you don't live high society doesn't mean you're not.
Exactly.
She might be happier than anybody she knows.
Right. Right. Okay.
And then she's also dealing with that. It's like, wow, they're doing fine, and look at Beau and I, we're not doing great.
Yeah. Should there be anything that happens with Beau? Now I can't. How do I put any kind of romantic element into this? Because they're already married.
What?
Well, there is romance in marriage. Okay, it has happened.
Yes, yeah. We actually saw her and Beau get married. I could say that the minister turned out to be bogus or something, but
they
don't really want to dump
together. They could be struggling with something in their marriage too. I mean, there can be a hiccup. It doesn't have to be a big thing, but there can be some kind of conflict there. I know you like them nice and smooth, but
Well, there's already dishonesty going on, though. I mean,
right.
in a sense,
Yeah, that's true.
Both made this big decision without any input.
true.
That was not
Right.
cool.
Because I think, it's what he saw because he works for his dad. So that's what he saw his dad and mom do. Dad made decisions, mom went along. Well, now he's married to this independent person. And, that's not how mom reacted. She was happy to go along with dad. So that's an issue for both of them because he's thinking he's not thinking of her as a trophy wife, but I think maybe he'll come to understand his own ideas too. And that's kind of a side.
So do you think that's your B storyline? Their marriage is kind of the B storyline?
Yeah. Because it's really about her, because we're back to identity, and her needing to find out where she comes from. And then
And
finding,
it could make some changes it might make some changes in her that he doesn't like. Why are you questioning everything? He could blame everything on, because eventually the B and the A storyline have to cross.
Yeah.
So maybe it's doing something that he doesn't care for or that he does like. I don't know. I'm guessing,
Okay.
Or maybe he goes along further sooner than she does. Maybe he could accept them
Exactly.
and develop a relationship. Maybe he can market the products that they make or something, and
Okay.
be a good old boy. And
Or he doesn't like to see this side of her that she's judgmental of him.
Snooty and
because I think it's a cliche that the rich people are always the snobs, and
yeah, and she didn't grow up as rich. I mean, they were fine, but he is the one that grew up with money, and so that could kind of throw that whole misconception on its ear. He's the one that sees the value in either the jewelry or the shabby chic jewelry or the artwork he's doing or something before she does. Okay.
Could you a getaway of some kind together if their marriage is struggling, something like the Weekend to Remember conference that Family Life Today does? They do it all around the country. I think it's Family Life and not Focus on the Family.
Okay.
They've got like 4 of them scheduled in the Twin Cities in the next few months.
We did
They
that
do them all around the country.
You don't have to be struggling, but we did go do that one time.
I think it's
I
phenomenal.
found the phone the other day.
I heard yesterday there.
a baby. Is there going to be a baby?
Yeah, she is pregnant, so that's what sends her on her. And then there's has to be, and that ties in. Hold that thought, Kim. That ties in to, does a half sibling have the same issue then that her baby has? Because that's how we're going to kind of go into story 3. Is Maggie, the pressure's on Maggie to save the baby from the heart condition or whatever.
Maybe needs certain kind of blood or something.
Yeah. Okay, so Cam, back to your.
A weekend getaway of some kind. This is back to the romance in their story. They go because they're not struggling, or they go because they are struggling. Maybe Michaela, I almost called her Kira. Maybe Michaela and Dawson recently did it because there was a conference out in Colorado, and now they want Lindy to go, and they happen to know that there's one out east where they are.
Okay.
That would just be a place to introduce some new.
And you could have some romance there.
Meat. There could be romance. There could be spiritual, not biblical truth introduced that could be for either one of them. Maybe that resonates with it more, and Lindy's like, man, it's a dumb conference, or Lindy loves it and he doesn't.
Yeah. Okay.
Would it be,
Okay.
would he go so far as to give her an ultimatum when she says, I'm going off on this search for my birth parents, and he says, nope, you're not, and she does anyway? I mean, would you want to take it that far?
I was thinking he's not okay with it. And I don't know if it's just because he has a sense that everything's going to change. Look at everything Michaela went through. She came back completely different, basically. Yeah. And okay.
And why isn't he enough?
Yeah.
And
Men are like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was at I don't remember where it was, but I think it must have been something with Susie May Warren, just thinking. She talked about thinking about a defining moment in her life that has made a big difference, and you write it out as a memory. And usually if you can put it somewhere in the story of something like a time where she used the example of like a little girl that remembers her that her mother abandoned her, but that's just a thought. But if you take him into, she remembers sitting on the bathroom floor, like leaning against the door, and she can still smell her mom's perfume in the room, and she's holding her mom's robe. That's a memory.
Okay.
And that propels the story forward. So if you can think a defining moment in her life where everything felt like, or there has to be a reason she's searching for her birth parents. Is it that she remembers so strongly feeling that at one point that she didn't fit in with her family that adopted her, and she doesn't want her kids to ever not know their connections? I mean, something like that.
In grade 5, they're studying heredity and, something like, and all the other kids have, I look like my dad this way, and and she doesn't have that somehow.
And how,
she doesn't look like, because Michaela looked like her mom. Maggie is actually her parents are her aunt and uncle. She doesn't know that yet. So she is related to them. And that was in the book. Somebody picked that up, which struck me funny because I didn't think anybody would. But some of Michaela's DNA sort of matched Maggie's. It was like she didn't match anybody. Wait, she sort of has some similarities with Maggie. Well, her mom and Maggie's mom are actually sisters. So Maggie will look more like mom, but Lindy never looked like anybody. Obviously.
There could also be some kind of chromosome or DNA problem with the baby.
Okay.
That's another reason she could have to go find,
Oh, something that pushes her.
A genetic thing that they want to find out.
Okay.
It would take things a whole different direction.
Yeah.
There's Fragile X syndrome that only boys have.
Okay.
And that you can be a carrier of.
Okay. And that's only for boys. I guess you'd have a boy then.
Well, she wouldn't know. Oh, I guess she might know.
They do. Cam, have you done you haven't done blood work or anything?
That was last time I was in a few weeks ago.
Okay.
If they think something's wrong, they'll do an amnio, but.
That's true. But she's pretty newly pregnant, but I could push her along a little bit.
Maybe she ovulated early and she's actually been pregnant longer than she thought.
I wonder who that sounds like. All of a sudden they're saying Camry's baby's coming a little earlier than they thought.
Only a week.
Only a week.
If you get too dramatic with the baby dilemma, I'm going to stop reading your book.
No.
I'm already crying over some kid who died from leukemia a couple days ago.
No, just stay away from that stuff.
Yeah.
She, to go on this quest for her parents, she has to say no to some opportunity that Bo really wanted her to say yes to. And so that just adds to the whole, I don't want you doing this, and now you're not going to be doing this opportunity that seems like it would be so wonderful, and you've got to choose, and she chooses what he doesn't want her to choose. And so there's, all that grief from that. But then as it all turns out, it was a good thing. I mean, then she's going on her own way and doing her own path, and that's going to be the better thing. And he has to come to terms with her. He doesn't always know what's best. He thinks he does, but not always.
So is it enough that because there'll be a lot of internal conflict? I mean, does there need to be more? I mean, there'll be external in that she'll find them and they're in a trailer park and she'll be in her little stilettos, and
And the mud.
in the mud, which is probably pretty darn, obvious. But yeah, she has to fall down and she has to,
She got a flat tire and some very scary looking guy has to come change it for her.
yeah. Well, has anybody seen Virgin River?
No,
At the very beginning, she's a nurse practitioner she's got this whole big backstory, and she's gone to taken a job in Virgin River, which is this little podunk town in the mountains, and ends up off the road, and this cranky guy comes and picks her up and saves her, and it turns out that that's her boss, the doctor and she's like, yeah, I heard the doctor's really old and cranky, and of course it turns out to be him, and
Well, you know what Mary Keneally says she does with her books whenever things get boring?
yeah.
You shoot someone.
It works better for her westerns, however.
She can do that.
One day I got stuck and I thought, for fun, I'm going to write. I wrote in a chapter where somebody got shot. I had to take it out, of course, but it was fun.
It was fun. But they do like their guns in West Virginia.
That's what I'm saying, rednecks.
But
Yep.
the same thing does hold true. I mean, she says her books are basically 3 bangs and a boom. And that's pretty much, you need some action, at least have them do something.
Yes. I've got to have some
So-
action. Okay.
So why not when she's at their place and there is some hostile neighbor or a break-in? I mean, who breaks in there? But I don't know.
What if she really didn't want to go? Okay, in a tornado, when you talk about a trailer park, my first thought is they're dangerous for tornadoes.
That's true.
Yeah, that's true.
And against
What
nature.
if she's there visiting and there's a tornado warning and they all have to go squeeze into one of those little shelters that they put at tornado parks, So then she has to be next to all the people that live in the trailer park.
Mm-hmm. And that should probably happen fairly soon in the,
Because every reader will be cringing thinking about it.
Yeah.
So
I know all of us would be like, ew. Even if it was my own neighbors, it'd be like, I mean, I didn't like my neighbors, but.
And you're scared and everybody's together and there's always somebody that's a little too hysterical.
Mhm.
Or a couple of them bring in their dog.
Yeah.
Yes, that's true. And their guns.
Something funny, you
Okay.
could,
It makes
One of the siblings could be really hostile to her showing up too. One of the siblings. And
yeah.
yeah.
I didn't even think of that because I'm sure they're.
Maybe they didn't even know. I mean, so then you've got all of that, nobody even knew about this person, and now here she is, and she's all la-di-da and highfalutin.
She's getting all this attention.
Oh yeah. And when you think, then, Mom, what else haven't you told us? We've got a sister. What else? What else you haven't told us?
Because it's so funny because some people just said I way overdid Michaela's reactions, and I probably did. But as I looked, found stories of people who found out they were adopted, like at 60 or after the parents died, and some of them, like, the whole town knew except for me. Or, so suddenly the rug is pulled off from under you because who do you believe? Who do you trust? Everybody has known the secret about me except for me. you know, I mean, stories, and I would just feel so bad for these people because I think, oh my gosh, you know, that's real. Where, you know, I'm just making up a story, but these are people trying to figure out, what do I do with my life now? Because I don't think anything I believed is true, you know, so that's what each of them is kind of discovering, each of the three sisters, that everything we thought we knew, and yet you come back to family by God's design.
How does her own parents, how will they, her adopted parents react to this?
And why would they not have told her and Maggie after Michaela's experience? Why would they have kept it from them?
Well,
Is there going to be conflict?
how do we
because,
shut off Eleanor here? Yes, because that's, you know, I actually had that thought, and I'm thinking that they would have told Lindy that they do know the names, but that doesn't mean that Lindy's ready to go look. But somehow,
Maybe they know that the mothers don't want this. Maybe they made a promise that they wouldn't tell.
yeah,
And Michaela's discovery is making that harder to keep, but they still feel obligated.
yeah. And that'll be true, because Maggie would say, okay, what about me? Well, Maggie's actually their niece. And so I've got to figure out, why would they not? And maybe that's something like Rachel, the mom's parents, the snooty parents, had made her promise not to say anything until they were dead or something. I don't know. But yeah, so they would have said they know her parents, they just don't know where they are, because that would have come out. So that needs to be maybe early on. She needs to be having that conversation with Rachel and Mitch.
It's really hard when it's not your story to tell.
Yes.
Because it's not your story to tell.
Your story to tell. I have people I worked with have that own this company and are very well to do. They have 3 kids. The oldest one is, you know, mid-30s. Then they have twins, and that's part of this whole twin thing is and they're actually twins, and the guy is like 6'3", dark hair, whatever, and the twin sister is like 5'3" and blonde. So you'd never in a million years believe they're twins, but they're obviously just fraternal twins. But what I didn't know was the older one was adopted. And Mom, the wife of the company owner, told me that after I wasn't working there anymore. And those twins don't know that. And they're all married now. They're in their mid to upper 20s. And she said, we said to David that it's your story to tell. I'm thinking, well, this is going to get ugly. And she said, we just ask that when you decide to tell them, you tell us, because we're the ones that are going to get in trouble. Because, of course, David was little, and, you know, they're the ones who have chosen this whole life to not tell the twins that they're brothers, and actually, you know, they're blood brothers. So it's like,
you have another sequel you can write.
I know. It's like, oh. And you just over and over, as you hear stories from people, and you think, just tell the truth. It's so much easier. It's hard at first, but it's so much easier. Okay, so this gives me a lot to go on. I mean, I feel like I've got, and I've got some marriage things that I can put in there, and
you have an inciting incident idea for the beginning to get things moving forward. Because I mean, I always figure if you can know where you're going to start, it's at least you can get going.
Yeah. And that's what's kind of tricky, is because she told them after the wedding in Christmas Mountaintop Christmas. That book, the sequel. So she told them already. So do I start there? Because it's already kind of out there. You know, was the ending of the epilogue for the first.
Well, you have to assume nobody read that.
Which is probably pretty safe.
That's true.
I mean, I just know when I write my continuing books, you kind of have to, each one of them has to stand by themselves.
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't make assumptions.
Okay. So it needs to be, maybe if there's she knows she's pregnant and there's some blood work comes back and says there could be something wrong or whatever. At the same time, Bo is telling her, I took this new job, we're moving to North Carolina.
I
Or is
think
that-
if he knows something could be wrong with the baby, he would be more supportive of the whole searching for the parents thing. So,
Oh, that's true.
so you'd
I
have
would
to
say
decide
there's
what
something
one-
wrong till later, when you need
Okay.
some more drama.
Yeah. Yeah. I kind of think,
Okay.
There's enough to say I took a job without telling you and we're moving.
yeah.
That would make me a very unhappy wife.
But that doesn't, so if they move, because she's pregnant. It's kind of the same reason Michaela went looking. It's like, okay, well, I have this heart condition. I need to know if this is going to affect my future. In this case, Lindy knows she's pregnant. How soon do you find out you got an issue?
Oh, usually it would have to be after like 5 months or something when they do an ultrasound is usually when they start being able to see things like that there might be a problem somewhere, like that their stomach is growing on the outside of their body or something like that.
Right.
They could,
Maybe.
I have a
But
friend
if
who
you start with her packing boxes and she's slamming things in boxes and she's mad.
Okay.
I mean, I think that, okay, in the first scenes of a book, you have to elicit some kind of an emotion. So it can be a sense of injustice or a sense of, something. And I think that most of us as women would relate to the fact if our husband suddenly picked a job and didn't tell us, our sympathy would be with her immediately.
Yeah.
And then she can't find a doctor, or she doesn't have a doctor that she knows,
Right.
like one that she grew up with, and she's feeling very surrounded by strangers.
Yeah.
I was just going to say about a problem with the pregnancy. Oh, maybe Camry, you can shut this off. But
Go to the bathroom or something.
Go ahead.
a friend of ours, they found out she started bleeding fairly early, and they found out that there was a hematoma growing alongside the baby. A hematoma is a great big, like, pocket of blood. And so she had to be very, very careful that whole, but then you can't. Anyway, the baby was born fine and all is well and no trouble, but it was a very big scare for a while.
What did Caitlin have?
Yeah, Caitlin has my girlfriend's daughter, they found out with the first pregnancy, some kind of, I think it's like a benign cyst. And for some reason, I think after that first pregnancy, it shrunk back down, so they didn't do anything. Well, now she just had baby number 2. And the cyst, because of the blood supply, so the cyst was like as big as the baby. And she's this little tiny person. And she was like, pregnant because it was like carrying 2 babies.
Oh my God.
And so now they're assuming the blood supply is cut off, so it'll shrink back down. And they could not take it out when she had the C-section. So like this summer, she'll have to go in and they have to take it out. So yeah, it's kind of that same thing, Eleanor, where.
But then you don't want her to have to be so careful all through the book, right? She has to be able to be active enough to go searching.
Right. Because she wouldn't
Well,
risk the baby's life.
And you want whatever happens to be something that the other sister that's the pediatric surgeon
Yes.
has to help deal with. So it has to be a surgical thing,
Yeah.
not a problem with her. It has to be something with the baby.
Yeah.
Kyra had cysts on her brainstem or something.
Oh,
The
that's
doctors found it at the 20 week, I think.
Oh,
And they said they usually go away by the time the baby is born, and they did for her. But maybe there's a kind of cyst that doesn't go away, and if it doesn't,
Chiari syndrome is one that has when you have a cyst on your brain too.
With a, I can't
H-I-V-R-I.
think of it.
Was
They
that your
were
dog?
concerned. Yes.
It was somebody's dog, but it was
Mine.
Eleanor's looking. We're all like,
Like,
what?
I have no dogs.
I knew my husband wasn't home, so it could.
It's not him.
My
He-
grandson was born with this. I forget now exactly what his ear looked like, but there was like this, I don't know, just like this little thing on his ear. And they said that then they had to do like a liver or kidney test because that can indicate a problem with the liver, the problem with the ear. I mean, it was like a cosmetic thing, but that could have something to do with things with the liver or the kidney. I forget which one, but fortunately it didn't. I mean, it was fine.
That's bizarre.
His ear looks fine. I mean, we've never done anything with it, but yeah,
Huh.
it was just
Okay.
My nephew was born with an extra finger.
really.
Oh, that's weird.
He was. I remember saying, so does he have his fingers and toes? And he's my grandnephew.
no.
And my nephew looked at me and goes, and then some?
Oh.
Like Goliath.
He had to take it off, but he did. He had an extra
Really?
finger after his pinky.
You know, it is amazing that we have as many healthy children as we do.
I
because,
always think that.
yeah, so much could go wrong.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So I've got two things. Okay.
Okay.
This is kind of a little bit of a repeat, but just thinking about the inciting incident too, like so they're getting ready to move, and what if he not only has decided, what if he has set up an interview for her at this new place? I mean, he has taken everything onto himself. He's decided they're going to move. He's found the house. He set up an interview for her for a new job and all of that. But even if all that's what you begin with, remember you have to keep her not so angry that people don't like her.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, she's got
Absolutely.
that.
Because I'm really good at that. People are like, I don't even like that person.
Yeah, I had that with
You know,
my
it's like,
books too. So what I did was I started with the hero so he could see her from his point of view and then she could be angry.
okay.
But anyway, then the other thing was going back to the parents. So I'm thinking about this little teenage couple and they give up their baby and not knowing like their family background, but now they have moved to West Virginia or, you know, wherever you decide they're going to move. And would Lindy's parents have given them money? And I know you don't want to probably get into it being a, you know,
Right.
paying for the baby thing,
Right.
but maybe that's part of the reason they sort of are not talking too much about it because it could be seen that way. I mean, I guess that would just depend on how much you would want to get into that kind of an issue.
Right.
Maybe they were just generous.
They were
Kindly
generous.
they were generous. They were helping them out. They had to leave. They wanted to get a fresh start. This was a way for them to do it, and they helped them do that. But it could have been seen as
Yeah, buying the
something
baby.
worse. Yeah, and so
And that could be something that came out, you know,
Yeah.
as they're talking about, well, if your parents hadn't given us this money, and they'd be like, what?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. They bought me?
but that was then part of the secret thing too. It's like, well, we're giving you money. You know, you don't look for her, and you know,
Okay.
and they weren't Christians then, so they might.
No.
You know, I don't know.
Mhm.
It just depends on how. That's just an idea, anyway.
Yeah. Well, that's what brainstorming is all about. Yeah. And I just would not have thought of like 98% of any of this. Okay. I think I've got a lot to work on. I have to go now. I have to write a book. No, kidding.
No,
Okay,
no,
Johnnie. Yeah.
I am
That's
waiting here.
Passing the torch. You're on, Chickie. Thank you, everybody.
That was fun.
All right, lay it on us.
Switching gears. So I am really apologizing to everybody that I am so late even with all of this, that this book isn't closer to being done than it is, because I wanted it to be, and it hasn't happened because I couldn't decide what story to write, basically. So I kept changing my mind. And so now here we are that I need it done very soon. And I'm writing lots of words every day and trying to make sure the words I can keep and not just words that
Yeah.
I'm going to have to throw away. But I have reached this point where I have racking my brains. I'm reading like stuff about con artists and all this thing and not coming up with a con. So just to be really brief with it, this is not a romance. I'm calling it, I think I'm going to call it a cozy suspense without the cat, because it's not like a suspense story where, you know, their lives are in danger every minute and all of that. But, you know, it's kind of like Leverage, or like just some of those fun shows where it's kind of a little bit of lighthearted, but there is stuff going on. And it's not a mystery because you know, right, you know, you kind of know who's the bad guy and all that thing. But anyway, so there's Cheney is the girl. She's a con artist. Her cousin is in jail because of something she did, and she wants to get him out of jail so that they can just take off. Like if they can just get bail, he'll jump bail and they'll take off. So she needs money. And well, I don't want to just bog you guys down with details, but I gotta tell you, I guess, some of the backstory. So the hero is a minister who just got fired from his church, and his dad helped this woman steal her horse from the racetrack because her husband wanted to race it even though it was injured, and she didn't want that to happen. So they have stolen the horse, the dad's disappeared, and she's going to get hooked up with the guy who owns the horse, because if she could find the horse, she'll get the money to get her cousin out of jail, and then they can disappear. But she breaks in to the minister's home because she thinks the dad still lives there, to try to find a clue to where this horse might be so she can tell this guy. And then he'll give her the money to get her cousin out of jail. And when she does, she gets caught. She and the minister have kind of met a little bit before, so I do have this worked out. It's not just a coincidence. And there's this Les Mis moment where he just says to the detective, no, I gave her that. Well, so then she comes back, you know, they're just going to start working together. She has not told him she's trying to find the horse for the bad guy who wants to race the horse one more time and then kill it for the insurance money. She figures out where the horse is. They go to the horse. The bad guy follows them. There's a big to-do. The horse gets taken back by the bad guy. And now what her goal is to run some kind of con on this man that will save the horse and ruin the guy. I don't know what it is. So this all takes place in Orlando area, because I'm familiar with that. Lived there like 20 some years. I know all of that probably sound a little bit crazy, but honestly, it works. I started rewriting it yesterday, and the first 10,000 words I feel are really solid, that sets all this up. But yeah, I don't know what the con can be. So I've got this.
Not just ruining his reputation or something. It has to be a financial con?
It can be I don't know. I mean, anything that will keep him then, like, so he gave the wife, his trophy wife, the horse. She's the one that stole it too, kind of stole it, but he never put it in her name. And there is this, I mean, this comes from this story my sister sent me about somebody who owned like 20% share of a horse. It was kind of the same thing. They were racing it despite its injuries. And she disappears with the horse for like 20 years. And the guy that owned a larger percentage of the horse has never given up looking for it. And he finally did find it. And there's been court cases, and he has spent, his son said he has spent tons of money trying to find this horse because he's so mad about it that, it just became an obsession. So that was kind of like the spark of the whole horse part of this story, because it kind of really did happen. So it's like, so that's kind of what all that's about. So it's just, they've just got to ruin him enough that he's going to leave the wife. She's going to leave him, going to leave him alone. This isn't a romance. The minister and the con artist, Cheney and Adam, they're going to start working together in the series, and maybe over 3 or 4 books, there'll be this long, like Castle or some of those, you don't want them to get together too soon. And so just something that's going to, some con they can run that will make him let her have the horse without any issues, but kind of maybe put him in jail, because he kind of is a bad guy.
I would think it would have to be something that, because he'll have to make that choice to give her the horse. So the option is go to jail, So it has to be something big enough.
Well, like an animal cruelty thing with the Racers Association, or, you know, for running it with an injury.
Well, they kind of turn a blind eye to that, though. I mean, it happens all the time. They medicate them, they give them so that they can run, and then it's causing a lot of damage.
So what's his other job? I mean, what does he do?
I don't know. I guess he's wealthy, but I haven't like pinpoint like where that comes from so that I could, you know, I'm open to ideas for that.
Because that would work, that it could be something regarding his day job rather than racehorsing, where he's been doing something and they could bring something to light that he's been fraud or tax evasion, or, you know.
Because the horses are, for most of those people, the horses is like a hobby.
Right. That's
they have like
right.
They much money. They do something with it.
He has like an attorney on retainer because that's part of the story, but it's like I've never given him exactly what he does, like if he runs drugs or, you know, I mean, he could fair game here for that.
If he's a drug runner, Sears will be frustrated that he didn't have to go to jail.
I'm sorry?
If he was a drug runner and he gets out of it by giving her the horse, people will be frustrated. That, I mean, it needs to be something that there's kind of a victimless crime.
So maybe they accuse him of, or they plant a bug in the ear of the Race Association head honcho that he's having an affair with that guy's wife. And then he stops turning a blind eye.
Ooh.
That's an idea.
And you want something that she used her con artist skills, right?
Yeah, she needs to use her con artist skills for this. So he could own hotels because that is the big, like a chain of cheap hotels. Because, you know, the Disney area, and there's all the nice Disney properties, but then there's this whole row of, you know, couple streets really that are sort of known for the cheap places. So he could own,
like selling timeshares.
oh yeah, I hadn't thought
like that, or
yeah,
That's a good idea.
So I was thinking, but then that gets real heavy. Any kind of human trafficking,
yeah, that's more than one I would want to get into.
Yeah.
Well, he sounds a little bit money hungry, and so he would jump. His character is the kind that would jump at an opportunity, a ground floor opportunity, right?
Oh, that's yes.
Yeah, that's good.
Her con has to be something where he thinks it, like everything else he's done, probably it's worth the risk to invest in it.
So he's more than willing to do something illegal to make more money.
Yes.
Because she's asking all the church ladies.
Yeah.
I know. It's like,
Why is nothing coming to mind?
I think that's why this has been so hard because it's like I don't have a wicked mind.
Oh, where's Sarah when you need her? She can come up with some of this stuff.
I got a whole bunch of those books. I just haven't looked at them lately. How to kill people.
How does one kill people?
What?
I have a lot of, yeah, anyway.
Oh my gosh. I read this book called Son of a Grifter. Can you see this? How horrible. This is the twisted tale of these people, a memoir by the other son. The son but they weren't like fun cons like Ocean 11 and those kinds of things. This was more like these people were just awful. I mean, and they ended up killing people, and it's
Okay, we don't want to do that.
true. And oh my gosh, but you know what? I could hardly put the book down. It was like, this is crazy, and it just, I don't know. It was crazy, but it didn't give me any really ideas. It gave me some ideas as far as their backstory, this girl and her cousin, and how their family life might have been, and the influences that they had, and why they do what they do. Because she's gonna, she's coming out of that. She's a compassionate con artist anyway. So, and you see that in the first chapter right away.
So this is way upping her game. So it's going to be a little nerve-wracking for her too.
And her cousin's not there to help her because usually he's like the mastermind, and she's she's just the cute girl that causes the, you know,
Yeah.
distraction.
Is a
really.
distraction. Yeah.
She's going solo this time.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So jewelry, could anybody be like fencing stuff or you know, because you're dealing with people. Trying to think of something like around the racetrack, because there's a lot of money there. So
Gambling. Yeah.
gambling and
Or what if she ends up selling him that they've discovered a new medication that will help horses run faster, but it's under the table, and he could be the one to.
but it's untraceable, or you know,
Yeah,
if they were to
untraceable,
blood
but yeah,
tests, yeah.
because they always test the horses, and this one would be.
Yeah, it's a new, and she could pull.
But then they would
claims off
give
of
it to the
TV.
horse, and then the horse could actually get pulled because and then the girl gets the horse.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, something around that you could.
Or Lindy's mother's jewelry.
To find out how this ends, I'm gonna read this series. I'll be doing that. Yeah.
That's funny. That would be clever if we could ever figure out a way to actually,
How to actually tie our books together.
yeah, tie something together.
Having been part of the 7 Brides for 7 Texans series, it's a lot of work.
Oh,
It's
I
a lot,
bet.
yeah.
Oh.
I had a friend who did
Amazing.
something like that where they, you know, they had all the different ones, and she said she would never do it again because,
It was fun. We had a great time, but Erica made a Bible.
Yeah.
oh, did she?
Yeah, you really have to know the details.
So, you know, yeah, we had a town, we knew everybody's character or whatever, but yeah.
Wow.
Ahead of time.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
When we
and-
started.
Yeah, you knew.
And
who
then
you
some
were with.
people did stupid things. Oh, I shouldn't say stupid things, but like somebody put a dog in their story. So then we had to go back and add the dumb dog in on everybody else's story.
The dog was not part of this.
Yeah, I'm like, so, or that there were a couple of things like that were. Somebody had a kid that went with them as their kind of like bad guy in training. So we had to add him in. And I'm like, I don't want to add the bad guy in training to my story. It doesn't work.
Just have him pass by in the background or something. I mean, yeah, it's like, how do you work that in?
Sleeping in the back seat.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm leaving
She could
town.
find out. He could be instead of in hotel industry, he could be in something, say art or jewelry or something like that, and she could try to sell him some bogus stuff. That, but I'm trying to think of some way that could make it so that he doing something illegal. It's got to be a big enough thing that he'll give her the horse.
Yeah, and it's got, you know, now obviously he's already been involved in illegal stuff, probably gambling at least, if nothing else, and never been caught, you know, because he's got.
What if there's a big poker game and she wins it and they run a con at the poker game?
Oh, I like that.
You know enough about poker?
You can learn.
I can learn.
Poker
We're watching that TV show.
I've heard something. I've even got a note about it, about a tell when you chip something, and I'll have to look again to see. But if people, amateurs often glance at their chips before they make a bet. If they're like unsure, they think they might have a good win, but they'll glance at their chips, and then you know they probably have a good hand. So yeah. I mean, so there are these little.
And you wouldn't have to, I mean, not necessarily go into great detail.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, learn all the intricacies, but enough to make people go, oh.
And she can stay when she'll say, I'll take the horse instead when he loses, you know.
So that he gets the horse. Yeah.
But then he won't go to jail. Or
No.
But that.
Unless he also loses money to somebody. I don't know about losing money.
Somehow in debt to somebody that's.
Yeah, that's where it's kind of going too. If he ends up owing money to somebody bigger than him.
Because he's really, he thinks he's a big fish, but
Exactly.
he's a small fish, and so then the big fish comes along.
Right.
It's a gambling thing.
Maybe he sold like a hotel that needed a lot of there was a lot of structural stuff that was hidden somehow that's going to come up. I don't know, asbestos in the wall. I don't know.
Yeah.
And they would be told on. He would be told on.
Yeah.
What if he's building one and cutting corners?
Yeah, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, because he's working with a developer or something, or whatever the foreman
can
person
come in-
is who knows he's cutting corners, and they're willing to, turn
Right.
on him.
And she could come in and be like, that she can get him supplies that are substandard for a lot less, and he's willing to pay for them.
Oh yeah.
Like, I don't know, maybe you can mix more sand with concrete. I don't know what. I mean, you hear about them all the time that they cut corners and something happened.
Well, in Florida, there are a lot of land scheme things too. I mean, there are people that do own lots that they can't get to that have never been developed, and there are a lot of rural areas that people don't realize either. So,
well, there was a hole that right over by National Camera Exchange Cam on 55 and 169, and they were building apartments, and all of a sudden it just stopped. I mean, they were up, but they weren't done, and they just sat there for quite a while. And it turned out that somehow they'd found out he was using inferior materials or something, and people had already, signed up, or so they could be condos or something where people have given money.
right.
And yeah, something happened, I can't remember, and then he had to sell it to somebody else who could, because people couldn't move in because they realized the structure was not going to be strong enough. And
Well, wiring is a critical thing. I mean, that can cause fires if there's something substandard there.
Yeah, I hear they had a guy that was going around wiring swimming pools, and he did it wrong.
oh
they said-
geez,
And they said this one pool, after it was inspected, if somebody had gotten in it, they would have gotten electrocuted.
oh,
Oh, that's frightening.
So that's a great thing you could have if he's building a hotel and he's not cutting corners.
Electric
oh.
swimming pool electrocution.
But then is she, what are we going to think of her if she's traded a horse for the potential of somebody being electrocuted?
You'll have to be very careful about that.
That's true. We don't.
Yeah, check on that.
Good point.
Yeah. I won't let that happen.
So they could also double cross him and call the inspectors or the
Well,
cops.
that's kind of what I want it to be, a double cross, because
That's good.
we've got this this detective is also a character, and he's kind of like keeps an eye out on her. He thinks she belongs in jail, but he doesn't have anything on her. He knows that, he kind of figures that the cousin's there sacrificing himself for her, so he's kind of following her around. But I think he's going to end up being one of those relationships where he comes to her aid in the climax of all of this. She's able to call on him, and he still will think you need to be in jail. That he kind of thinks of her as a daughter, like he's a Papa Bear kind of person. And it's like,
And she is taking down a big guy,
yeah,
much bigger than her. So
yeah.
yeah.
So I think that's kind of where it's going to go. And
They're downstairs in the garage.
Her name Hillary?
pardon?
Is her name Hillary?
I'll be right back.
No, her name is
Oh.
Janie. I named her after a Cocker Spaniel I have. Her name is Janie Rose. His name is Adam Thorne. So yeah, because Eleanor, you've got the Rose tattoo trilogy, right?
Sarah.
Sarah has the Rose tattoo trilogy. Because I'm thinking, I didn't know she was doing Rose too, and now it's kind of too late. Because I've had this story in mind for about a year, but never did anything with, I mean, not this story, these characters, I've been thinking about these characters for quite a while, but yeah, finally decided to run with them.
Mhm.
So you guys think
Does that
it'll be a
help?
good story? Yeah, it gave me stuff to think about and to research. So I think
Yeah.
I can come up with something. I kind of like the land scheme idea. I think that might, if he's sort of a developer who's sort of a shady developer anyway and comes across some kind of land that he thinks, yeah, I think I can.
Maybe there's bad drainage, or maybe there's contamination or something.
Well, there's in Florida too. It's like you have to do like wetland mitigation. I mean, there is stuff you have to put in retention ponds. You have to do this kind of stuff. So I think there would be different.
Mhm.
I think what would happen was he has to believe, and he has to believe that if he buys this land, maybe the government then is going to come in and do something. So he wants to own it. They want him to think that if he owns it, then he can sell it for a big profit because of something else that's going to happen, right?
Mhm.
And so that's where which I would not have thought of without us all talking here right now. Thank you. Yeah,
So
and I think that's
what he be the government officer promising that they'll look after something.
yeah.
That would give him, without.
He thinks he can buy it for a song and then sell, and then turn around before, he thinks he's got the inside scoop on a government contract or maybe a bigger developer or something.
And then
And
he
so he
just
pretends to be that big person. Right? And-
Yes.
Oh, that's dirty.
Yeah. And then somehow the horse will come into it too. Because she's the mischief thief, and so far she really isn't the one stealing the horse. I think maybe I mistitled the story, so I still have to figure out a way that she's the one that steals the horse.
That is a problem.
That is a problem. It's like,
I'm glad I'm not the only one with problems like that.
oh boy, I'm glad to hear that too. I'm sorry, but I'm not too then. Oh man, that's what you get for, thinking you know the story before you actually write it and giving it a title.
That's why I try to write the synopsis before I write the story. It
Wow.
helps a lot of times. It
Mm.
doesn't always work out. I still end up in jams, but
Yeah.
like I write the back cover copy before I start the story.
Oh,
Because
wow.
after I write it, then I usually know too much and then it gets too long.
Yeah. I always know too much too.
I think it helped writing the back cover copy. And I was like, I know I'm sticking with what's on there. I know that, that
Mhm.
what I wrote was what was going to happen. But when there again with your guys' help, I really like the land scheme idea because I think, I can figure that one out.
Mhm.
And that's a good one. I just got to figure out how to tie the horse into it too. And
And
what
they found some shabby chic jewelry on that property. Let go of that.
Oh, we're liking that idea. Well, if that's a believable thing, the whole land scheme, that happens a lot down there.
it does. It really does. Yeah.
Can you look up some of the
Yeah,
things that
I
happen?
am gonna look some of them up and see. That gives me
Why would
something.
he give her the horse? Like, why would that?
Well, I'll figure it out. There's always an answer, and I've learned this from writing. There always is an answer, and so you just have to find it. And
Start writing, and
yeah,
somehow she'll, or it will come down to she'll walk away from this if she gets the horse or something.
yeah,
She'll-
something.
He'll sign something, and then she reveals that this is she's working for the police or something, she could say, and something believable, and she'll tear up that paper, and
Does
then
she-
it'll
does
actually
You
be a
have to go to
copy.
jail.
I do want him to go to jail.
Yeah. So I was gonna say it has to be a copy or something, and then the cops
just
walk
meant-
into the room.
He could end up buying this land and being stuck with this useless land too.
That's true. that would be a good comeuppance too. And then maybe because he put money in that, he didn't have money, you know, he put too much money in it. So now he's strapped for cash, and that kind of ruins him financially. He's got worthless land, but he has but nothing else now. It's like,
Yeah, so then he advertises the horse, and she shows up, and he hates to have to do it, but he's forced to or something.
yeah, he's gonna give her the horse. All right, this really, really helps, because just like looking up scams and stuff like that didn't help, but looking up land scams, I think I'll be able to come up with something. And like you said, Florida's known. There lots of shady stuff going on there.
Sad. That is sad. Yeah, my sister-in-law's son is now a realtor in the Naples area.
Oh, really?
When we were down there at Thanksgiving, he said, there's so much money down here. People don't, these are not, and we even went on a little boat tour, and those guys said, these are not these people's first home. This is their second or third or fourth home. They have so much money. And so they're there for 2 weeks. And we got to see a condo that was, he was selling and did sell, worth like 3.4 million. And what they do is they pay all this money, and then they like double the cost, because they just totally tear it apart and rebuild it, and then they sell it again. And it's like, holy cow, the money in Naples, but I think all across Florida, it's like unbelievable.
Well, Naples is really, I mean,
That's very pricey. Yeah.
Johnnie, just a thought about that. Wouldn't it be a great scene to have them actually clandestinely steal the horse? And
I do show that. I show the from the wife's point of view, so she's got a little bit of a point of view in there too, and I do show her stealing the horse. And because at the beginning of the story, you know, nobody knows where the horse is, but the horse is already gone. And so I do show how and I had to do this kind of weird, so I hope it's not real confusing. So I start with Cheney and you know, and Adam and all of that. And then I have a part 2 that goes back in time for like 2 or 3 weeks. And then that shows how the horse, because I didn't want to start with that, because, you know, you don't want to know right off. And then it goes back to present day with a part 3, and it'll just continue on the rest of the story. So, yeah. But I thought that, you know, I didn't want to have to just be telling how the horse got stolen. I wanted it to be done. And that was a little bit hard, because it's like, where is that horse? Why does nobody know where the horse is? How does Cheney figure out where the horse is when she doesn't, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But I think I did it. I think I did it. And
Sure you did.
and I know the geography, so that really helped. And that was kind of fun, because then I'm like starting to name roads and name places, you know, and it's like, oh, this is pretty cool. But yeah, they steal the horse and hide it out at a hunting camp, and she sees pictures of the dad at his vet. He's a veterinarian at the vet's office, and she sees these pictures at the hunting camp and thinks he may not be there, but you know, he's got to take this horse someplace that he's familiar with and someplace he's comfortable with, and where it won't be seen. So so when they go to the hunting camp, they find them, not knowing that the bad guy is following them. So there's going to be a kerfuffle.
A kerfuffle? I love kerfuffles. Or fisticuffs. I love when people have fisticuffs.
Someone's going to get shot, and I always thought it was
You
going to
really
be
could
bad
write
guy
his
just to anger him more against his wife that she shot him. But I actually think the dad's going to get shot, not killed, but I think the dad's going to get shot. I honestly don't know either how much my story is following the family by design theme. So I've been kind of glad to see that we're not really promoting that so much anymore.
Well, it's family in that somehow she's
cousins.
adding a new family.
I heard cousins in there. I know
Yeah,
it.
there's
They're-
a cousin.
and a father figure. I
And
heard
a father, yeah. A son and a father who's
And an estranged marriage, which isn't by his design, but
No.
family, sort of.
but showing what happens when it's not by his
She's
design.
wife number 3, and she thinks he's already looking for wife number 4. So.
Oh. So we're kind of showing what family looks like not by God's design. That works. Do you feel like you have something to work with?
Yeah, I do. I do. So thank you guys, because I really would just felt like if I can get this written, we're in trouble. So
We are in trouble. Yeah, well, you and me
I'm
both.
in trouble, and I feel like I was letting you guys all down, and I don't want to be that person. I don't want to be the one
Well,
that doesn't get a book out on time.
yeah. We'd have had to boot you then.
Yeah, I know, and I would have been so unhappy and sad.
Eleanor, did you have something you wanted to?
It's what I'm working on now on Tethered. So it is finished and I'm just working on final edits. Then I'm going to send it out to beta readers.
Woohoo!
I
And
know.
there's
So
just
when
a
is
couple-
it getting published? When's it releasing?
July, right? Yeah, July.
Further along than I
Hmm.
I know.
Anyway, there's just a couple of things that I just need some moral support on.
Okay.
One of the things is this is a young woman who is related to Ruthie and Naomi from the last book.
Mhm.
And she is the daughter of an estranged brother, a guy who left home when he was 17, wanted nothing to do with the family. And the reason for that is that Naomi and Anna and his name is John, their parents, the father was very hard on John, this girl's dad in particular. And she has a bone to pick with them. She wants family, that's why it's called Tethered. She was very rootless in her growing up, but she wants that foundation of family, and she wants to be grounded, but she also has imbibed a lot of his bitterness about the way he was treated, but she's always only heard his story. So when she meets her aunts, she's very drawn to them. They're wonderful ladies, but she has this issue, and they're speaking well of their parents, and it was a different story. So I have some things in there that I'm wondering if they're going to be hot buttons, because they do admit that their dad was too harsh with John, particularly him, not so much the others. And I have said some things like, but he was a very difficult child. He found ways to push buttons. He had a little bit of a cruel streak. And what I'm worried about is that may look like permission or approval of abuse. And I'm hoping I don't have that. Do you think I need to have a disclaimer in the back about that?
I would think it depends on just how it's presented. I mean, kids have times when they're difficult growing up. They're just kind of working through things. It does not, and that could be something people say. He had a wild streak for a while, but that doesn't mean that you handle it with, beatings.
Doesn't give anybody a right to beat on them.
Yeah. So
Right,
that
and I
could
did
be
say
something
that.
that's discussed. And so you're showing that that's not okay.
Right.
Yeah, I have that coming from one of the aunts, that no, abuse is always wrong. The Bible says so. But the girl is thinking, well, the mother should have left and taken the kids with him for to safeguard him.
Mhm.
And then I offer that, well, it was a different time, and where would she have gone with 5 children and no means of support?
Right.
And then the other thing is that he did mellow over time, except the son left it, on his 17th birthday. And anyway, that's something I'm worried about. But if you think that the things that the people say are going to mitigate that, then I'm okay.
Yeah.
I don't think
from the dad who was so harsh. Does he have a point of view in the story?
He's dead and gone.
Oh, he's dead and gone. I'm sorry.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But he is like the man who has left home. He's 73 by this time.
Okay.
Yeah. But he's like still bitter, and it has affected his life and his daughter.
Well, I agree with Stacy. I think that and Lorna, there's just other characters are the ones that are going to be showing that. And then, we always usually have this letter to the reader, and you can, if you feel like you need to, you can always put something in there too, without it being like a note, but just conversationally, if you feel like you need to after you've got it all done.
Yeah.
And maybe through conversations, he recognizes, I'm sure I was a hard teen, or whatever. Doesn't mean he's going, it's okay. But as they're having conversations or whatever, but that isn't.
It definitely is that. Yeah.
Yeah. But that doesn't mean I should have been treated like that. And,
right.
I mean, it sounds like you do enough to show that was not okay. He has a reason to be bitter. And maybe I have a sister who was that way. She was very difficult, and my mom was raising the four of us by herself. But she and my mom just would butt heads constantly. Well, sometimes, I think, thank you, God, I had pretty mellow kids and whatever, but you can see when people get to the end of their rope, but that still doesn't make it okay.
It doesn't, but it helps you understand a little better and also see another side.
Yeah.
And that's what I was hoping to accomplish, because this really is very similar to the story of my brother and my dad. And so I know kind of both sides of the story, Yeah. So then the other thing.
It's always harder too when one child is the one that's picked on.
Yeah.
Or that. And it does happen that way a lot of times in any kind of abusive situation. That it can be that way. And time, so many of those things that happened back then, that was what they're doing what their parents had done. That's my mom always joked, she said, it was before Dr. Phil. No, it was before, what was the first one?
Dr. Spock or
no, it was one of the talk shows, the guy with the white hair. I can't think of his name.
Phil Donahue.
It was before Donahue. Yeah.
Yeah. And see,
We
my
didn't know all these
mother would
things,
say, we didn't have Dr. Dobson.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that there was things you didn't know. And so you just,
Yeah. And it was what you knew. Mike's dad was very hard on all three boys. But he grew up with parents that were, that literally came over on the boat. They came over on separate boats, but they came over. And life was hard, and you'd like to think they did the best they could with what they knew. Was the best they could good enough? No, not necessarily, but were they terrible people? No, they just didn't, And yeah, if the kid could push your buttons, there are times where you think, oh man, I think I understand child abuse.
Yeah.
Not to Camry, of course.
When my son was 14, I think 13 or 14, he mouthed off to me one day, and I went to slap him. This is not a proud parenting moment. I just want you to know that. Well, my son started Taekwondo when he was 5. He had a 3rd-degree black belt by this point, and he blocked me so fast. And I punched him in the stomach.
Don't mess with mom. You might be 3rd black belt, but I still have moves.
I know. I didn't even hurt him. It was more like, you blocked who, But I mean, things do happen. We both, he doesn't even remember that. I mean, he doesn't remember it all. He goes, I'm sure I deserved it. I'm like, well, yeah, you really did, but
it doesn't make it okay.
Yeah. But there's a big difference between things like that and ongoing abuse too.
Yeah.
I think so too.
As to the spirit and everything. And your story, I'm sure, shows that.
Yeah, there's a really neat turnaround moment too. I'm kind of proud of, so I won't spoil it, but it's a good thing. So the other thing in the same book is she moves here, and there is a little bit of a love interest with a neighbor. it's pretty obscure because almost all through the book, his wife is dying. And so that is something that actually helps her feel safe with him because she's had a broken relationship that she's fleeing. But at the end, they do get together. And I'm just wondering, is that going to be a problem? Because at the end, he says he's so, he started to really, his feelings for her started to grow like near the beginning of the book. And that was a conflict for him because he had a wife that he loved who was dying. And so he tried very hard to he was never alone with her. He has a son, so he always had his son. And she, along the way, she's not a Christian, so she thought that was a little weird. Why does he always have to have his son with him just to come over and help her with her plumbing or, but he always did. He was very careful, but he felt terrible about it. And so then when his wife dies, he doesn't want anything to do with her for a while. And that seems weird to her too. And so do you think that that's going to be viewed as adultery?
Oh, I'm sure somebody will.
But if he was careful about it and everything and he wasn't necessarily encouraging that.
No, he's trying not to have that.
So I wouldn't think, I mean, he was handling an attraction in a very safe way.
Mm-hmm.
And she was unaware of it.
Mm-hmm.
She started
Does
to.
he show proper grief when his wife dies?
So it sounds like it if he stayed away from the
Yes, he does.
As long as he truly grieves for his wife, I would think it would be, I mean.
Yes, he does. Of course, she's had this for 11 years. She's been, off and on with cancer.
He's been saying goodbye for a long time.
Yes, he has, yeah. However, he does show there's a moment of grief, and that's another issue because I have him just in a rage by himself, but in a rage, and the word damn does come up twice. So I'm wondering whether to take that out.
Of course, you're asking somebody who has that in one of her books, and the guy's an ex-con, and I thought, I went the whole book and had a couple of swear words in there because these are either kids. He was working with kids, off the street, and he was an ex-con. And sometimes, you know what? I know people who have very strong faith who can let fly some 4-letter words. And I had one person say, if there hadn't been so many swear words or whatever, and I thought, oh, honey, it was way towards the end of the book, and it worked. It just I tried taking it out, and it's like, shoot, no, that doesn't work.
Yeah.
Because it was a big revelation that he didn't want to come out. So you know what? I get tired of worrying about that. If it was constant throughout your book, if I had these rednecks letting loose every 2 seconds, I mean, that probably would be more realistic, but I'm not gonna, but if it fits the setting, then I think people get over yourselves. There'll be a couple of people who might say something and the rest of people won't even notice. That is my opinion. Now the rest of you can rebut. Nobody's rebutting, so.
I don't know. I mean, I probably wouldn't personally, but I'm not going to tell you not to. I wouldn't tell Stacy not to because I understand. I was writing a draft once, and this book is still unpublished, but the character said, thinking, she gets a note and reads it, calling you bastard, and I thought, I can't believe I just wrote that, and I did take it out. But honestly, sometimes I think if this book gets published, it might go back in because it was just the total truth. And that's not a word I go around saying,
right.
But it was just like, so in that moment, as I'm just typing and writing, it was the only response really a person could have in that situation. So
that person, that
person in that setting.
Yeah. I mean, it just kind of came out. So, I think
back with
all have to make.
Right.
would hope nobody in this group would use the F word ever.
Yeah.
Might have to draw a line, but
Well,
you know.
really, to me, it's much worse to use God's name in vain.
Oh,
Yes.
absolutely.
The rest is coarse language, but that is like blasphemy, and I would not use that.
Yeah, I don't do that either.
But Brenda had that one, as she was talking to different agencies, the one agent, she had,
Christians don't smoke.
yes, she had the gal, her stress release is she'd run to her, like, what was it, underwear drawer or something, and get her little pack of cigarettes, and she hated this about herself. And then she'd, go outside and have a quick cigarette. And the person's response is, well, Christians don't smoke. And I think, well, you gotta come to my church, because it was, sometimes somebody sits down next to you and you think, wow.
Yeah.
Maybe it could be fast food. And then we were hysterical. Oh yeah, I'm gonna run to my underwear drawer and pull out a hamburger. What?
Chocolate bar.
Yeah, I got a chocolate bar, but it fit the character, and I was glad. And then that was a little piece of contention between her and that guy, and it worked. And I just thought, with all the stuff out there, no, we want to be different, but we also want to be real. I mean, that's important to me. So
Each publishing house has their own set of rules and stuff about things like that, and traditional. that
and
have.
you are your publishing house, Eleanor. So
Yeah.
But I am
So
in
you
association
have to
with
have your
you.
own.
I am with you, and I don't want to bring down the
I think we
level.
all sort of have that feeling. I mean, this group, and we want to make sure everything's okay with our stories and stuff. But yeah,
And there's a fine line between being an artist and also, walking that line of artist and Christian at the same time, being authentic and telling the truth about the world. There are people we can't probably write about that we know out there. I know some people and how they would talk that I wouldn't be able to portray on a piece of paper
Right.
and do it authentically.
right, without really
I
changing.
wanted to use in Unbound about that it was very coarse, and I thought, no, my mother will read this. No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it fit that person so perfectly. It would have made you hate her so well. Yeah, couldn't use it.
And that's where we have to really use our artistry to portray people like that without those words. So that's always fun.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what my beta readers say.
We trust
And don't tell them ahead of time. Just see what their reaction is. And
it wouldn't faze me if I were reading it.
no.
if it fits the character and it fits the moment, yeah, it's when they throw it in just like gratuitously that I think, oh, seriously. But you hear people talk, and sometimes I think, seriously, you can't come up with a better word,
Right.
Well,
But
in
and does it bother anybody else that the F word is used as a noun, a verb, an adjective, and an adverb? I'm like, that is not
it's the
possible.
dumbest word. Yeah, it's like,
No, I'm like, that is not right.
yeah.
Grammatically, it's wrong.
Nothing else grammatically, but it's just an ugly word. And I think, come on, maybe you can just use a little bit of effort and come up with a better way to.
So to me, damn is so small compared to those. And a man just saying darn just sounds kind of weird. So,
I know this is a cowboy type. Is he really gonna say dang?
Yeah.
Hang it anyway. Yeah.
He might say dang when he's kind of joking, but not when he's in the throes of grief.
Right. I went to a funeral the other day for a Christian woman, and her son got up and spoke. And he said, my mom's favorite word was shit. And everybody, the jaw is just all dropped. She is but she said that she liked to write too. She was, but she said there are some situations that is the best word to apply. There are some situations that is, and she said, choose the right word for the right occasion. And I'm like, okay,
I'm doing it. Yeah.
I was like, And I turned to my daughter who was sitting next to me and I said, if you ever get up at my funeral and say that's my favorite word, I'm going to come out of the casket.
Yeah, exactly. Casket's going to open up and I'm coming out.
Wash your mouth out with soap right there.
Right there. It's funny.
Oh, that is too funny. I just saw a thing on Facebook that was shows the casket, and all of a sudden it opens and a person gets out, and I think it uses chat or something. I forgot my cell phone. Some people, that's probably true. Right, I can't die. I need my cell phone first.
My mom said if they read Proverbs 31 at her funeral, she would come out of the casket. And she said that wasn't fictional or they would have given her name.
It was, yes.
Nobody can do all that.
My mother-in-law it was the sweetest woman in the world. Just loved her. And she was a saint because she lived with my father-in-law, but sweetest person. And she wasn't a middle school music teacher, so I knew she, heard words and things, but she was in the throes of her Alzheimer's. There was one time I happened to be standing in the bedroom and the aide was trying to help her get up, and she said something like, I'm not going to you can't make me do that shit or something. And the aide and I laughed. She, we kind of tried to hide it, and she looked at me and she went, I had to leave the room. I was laughing so hard. I thought, Marguerite, so I just left the room because I thought, oh my gosh, it's in all of us. We just don't.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that was funny. So look out, Cam. You never know.
My mom has told a similar story. She said she and my dad went to visit shut-ins, like church shut-ins, and this lady, she had a grown son who was a little bit disabled, so he lived with his mom, into his 60s or whatever, and so she was bedridden, and they were mostly visiting with him at the table, but the door to the bedroom where she was open, and every once in a while, my mom said she heard, and this lady had been just a lovely Christian lady, known for her hospitality to just anybody and everybody.
Yeah.
And they kept hearing these terrible outbursts of foul language, like really foul, and that's all, just periodically. And Mom was quite alarmed, and she warned me sometimes that happens with, this was a stroke.
Yeah.
And
the filter comes off, and
maybe all those memories of all those times you wanted to let loose.
Yeah.
I've
heard people say that.
Had a stroke and they all just come shooting out.
Everything you've never said.
Everything you've never said.
We'll have this recorded, so we'll be able to say we didn't want to do those things.
Yes, there were the things we never said that now I'm saying. So.
When I was a candy striper, I went into a room, I had to feed older ladies. And there were two ladies in this room, and one sat in her chair and she'd go, oh, pity, 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 pity. Oh, pity, pity. That's what she do all day long. And the other one laughed hilariously. She just roared with laughter all day long. And I thought, who put these women together?
I know. Well, they're happy, I guess.
Well, when I get old, I hope I'm the one that laughs.
I would be the laughing one.
Oh, feeling sorry for myself all day, but yeah.
Anyway,
anybody else have any more?
I do.
I'm done.
I'm done. You have something, Lorna? Camry got a bunch of sheets of paper. She's either cutting things or she has something to say.
I'm not writing anything right now, so no.
Okay. People love your book.
I am cleaning my basement, just so you know. So at some point you might actually get to see, you can't imagine how awful our basement has been. So
yes, you can imagine.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You can't imagine. When people come over to our house, if they go down there, I make them take a vow of silence.
No, I've not been on the hoarders show yet, but where do you put stuff? You just throw it in the basement.
Yes, that's what we were getting close down there. So my son's girlfriend she starts a new job in March. So she's been helping me. So we've been working on it every day.
You must trust her.
Yeah, you must trust her.
If she survives this,
She is a family member.
or
Oh,
you're off that way, one or the other.
yeah, that's true. Yeah, Paul.
You must marry my son now.
Yeah.
I'm not thinking that. So just so you know,
Oh. Ooh.
no, we'll be praying about this one.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah, we got news last night that our son, who is living with his girlfriend, they are expecting.
Oh,
So
Well,
that's,
congratulations. on
yeah,
your
we must say
grandbaby.
congratulations, but I can
Yeah.
tell you're
well, you know, I'm happy to have another grandchild. It's not the child's fault. It's just
Right.
and
Yeah.
he at one time professed faith as an adult, and then he met her and moved in with her, and she's really into New Age,
Oh,
well, yoga, but that's kind of New Age, and she's a very nice girl. I don't know.
Well, we will pray for them. I
Thank
have a
you.
whole lot of friends who have said that. It's like, this is not how I raised them. And now every
He
single
knows that.
kid.
He told us that right when they were saying this, and they do plan to get married. And
Mhm. Mhm. Maybe you could do it before the baby's born.
well, we did suggest that. No, they don't want to be rushed.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love parenting adults.
Yeah.
well,
Congratulations, and we're sorry. I
I know you would understand.
yeah.
it's difficult.
Because you want to be excited about that.
I really wanted to, and I could see myself on the FaceTime call, and I thought, that doesn't look like a genuine smile. He'll know, like it sort of, you know.
Yeah.
But
No,
yeah.
it's true. It doesn't mean I don't love you, but I don't. I mean, this is me, and this is how I respond. And I feel like that, not your son, but the world is like, well, if you don't rejoice over the fact that I've decided to come out as bisexual or something, there's something wrong with you. And it's like, no, I guess if you're happy, not necessarily for that, I'm happy for you, but I get to have my emotions too. And
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know, it's hard.
Yeah, but I also don't want that to damage a
Mhm.
potential future relationship, you know. So
Right.
Yeah.
I'm trying.
I know.
I think that the Lord has worked in me. There was a time I would have burst into tears. So,
Mm.
you know, I'm
That's
able to accept
true.
these things, and
How do we love them and not? I have a girlfriend whose son is gay, and she says to this day now, I don't accept that lifestyle, but I love my son. And so it's that line between, I don't condone this, but I'm certainly not going to turn my back on my son. And so it's been a journey for her in that, how do
Well,
you,
my son has white knight syndrome.
what's that?
rescuing maidens in distress.
Oh,
And she has a ton of trauma in her past, which I'm not saying she isn't the person for him.
Yeah.
She might be,
mhm.
but it's not who I pictured him with.
I know.
And I can see it's going to be a battle.
Mhm.
If they get, and I keep wanting to say, you're both firstborns. You know that doesn't work.
Can.
Somebody has to be in
oldest son-
charge, and it's always you thinks it's you, you know?
I was married to a firstborn. I'm a firstborn.
Ah.
Power struggles.
It
Yeah.
is. It creates problems.
My parents were both only children, and my mother was a firstborn and my dad was a baby. I mean, it was like,
Oh, wow.
yeah, they did not take firstborn roles. My mom had to be a firstborn. My dad was totally spoiled. So it was almost like a firstborn married a baby of the family.
wow.
It's interesting.
The happiest marriages are thirdborns, 2 thirdborns.
Really? That's interesting.
Oh, I'm a thirdborn, but my husband's firstborn. So we have half a marriage, or half a happy marriage.
Well, I mean, they're fun.
One of us is happy.
I mean, from what I've read, they understand each other the best, you know, and I'm like, so I always tease my other kids. I'm like, Emma's going to have the happiest marriage.
Wow, that's interesting, though. I didn't know that.
I'm a third, and my husband's a second. So we're both just middle children. He's
Yeah, we're
second.
both middle children, but there's 8 years between me and my older brother. So
Yeah.
I have some more older and
Firstborn, sort of.
I'm the oldest of the youngest two.
Mhm.
I was a surprise and my brother was a mistake. Okay.
Oh. Your parents just were walking around going, whoa, how did that happen again?
He didn't use anything that whole 8 years though.
Oh.
And when my mom went to the doctor, she was just tired. And he said, you're not tired.
You may be tired, but yeah, you also got something else going on.
Uh-huh.
Oh, I can't imagine.
Well, I gotta go because I have to go clean the basement.
Oh, really? Chop, chop. Good
You
luck.
can't.
Yeah, I should
Yeah.
go too.
Well, thanks everybody. This was
Thank you.
helpful. And
Yeah.
really.
Johnny and I have writing to do.
Yes,
Eleanor,
we
you
do.
can wait to the
Camry,
debaters.
did you want to say anything? Because you haven't got to talk hardly at all. Camry, did you want to say
Oh,
anything?
oh, me? No, I got nothing to say right now. I'm just listening.
We're giving her horror stories of older children.
That's okay. She's on number 4, so whatever. Kyra May.
Here's my
Kyra May is reading now.
Hey.
That's what I was reading with all the papers. Where are the colored books?
Yay. Oh, clean, not clean.
Oh, nice.
They are headed over here, and she's going to read to me.
Oh, good.
Yeah, my husband's apparently going to work. He's working 10 to 2.
Is that what
he
he
told
came
somebody?
this morning?
That's what he told somebody last night. He's working at the school from 10 to 2. I didn't know that. So, you know what I was saying is, as you're living with dementia, it's just very quiet. And I was thinking, well, maybe I don't have to worry about, kind of kicking our future into gear here. Do I move? Do I, what do I do? And then last night we were serving at the Ash Wednesday supper, and I found out that he was telling the gal, yeah, the day after I retired, they called, and I've been working at the school from 10 to 2. And the gal said, I did think that was kind of odd timing, but so it's like, okay. So Cam and I are having lots of conversations about how do we go forward with this? I don't have a clue. He's out buying tabs for our cars. I hope he comes back with tabs. It doesn't come back with like a dryer or something, but he might.
What are tabs for your car?
Yeah, I don't know what tabs are either.
Oh, the little number. Don't you? Doesn't everybody have this?
You don't have tabs on your license plate?
Really?
Well, I
have
don't
to
hope
buy
with that.
Oh,
the annual tabs.
and stickers.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's little
Oh,
stickers.
well, they're called
Okay.
tabs in Minnesota.
Okay, okay.
Did not know that.
Sorry, we've educated us on something else.
There you go.
Yeah.
Got to have our tabs. And of course, we waited to the end of the month and everybody else is doing it. So that's why I had to leave. He was going to go off and do that. And all I think is, okay, I hope you come back with tabs, not a dryer or something. So we'll find out.
Stacy, we are praying for you and Brenda both in this
Yeah.
journey that you guys are going on together, that you shouldn't have had to go on together.
I know. And I feel worse for her because Marv is, what, 58? You know, Mike is at least going to be 66, but yeah, but they're very different. Dementia is such an odd thing because it's so different person to person. And, his short term is shot and Mike has some of his short term, but it's more of a speech thing. And so when you ask him a question, the answer is like, "Zing," over here. And so she and I are going to the Dells on, she's going Sunday. I'm going to go Monday and just stay to Thursday. So Lorna, if you're not doing anything, come on up. But it's like, yeah, I need to sleep because I can't sleep through the night. And she said, I just need him to not look at me because he just looks at her all the time. So it's like, and everybody's got their cross to bear, it's just.
Do you worry about him getting up?
No, he got a CPAP machine a few weeks ago.
He knows when he gets up.
Yeah. Well, because the other night he just took the head thing off and went to the bathroom. He didn't shut it off. So what you get is
I
this
know. I know.
blowing thing. Could you shut it off while you go to the bathroom? But you're dealing with somebody who's doesn't think like we do. So it's more that. So last night when that started, I'd gotten a couple hours of sleep, and when that started, I just got up and went in the other room because I thought, no, I'm getting too cranky without sleep, and so no, I don't worry about him going in. He loves to be home, so if he wanders, I'll be very surprised because he doesn't go anywhere. So we appreciate your prayers, and we pray for you guys as things come up for the new baby. And Camry's new baby.
Yeah.
That's going to be very exciting.
Yeah. So anyway, so writing. Let's get our writing done.
Let's do it.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
go back to
Everybody.
writing, people. I'm going back to I'd rather be writing, but I can't right now because my desk is covered. But
Okay, back to cleaning for you.
Sorry, one drawer, and I realized after we did it last night, I'm like, this drawer is the worst one to open on the vertical file. So I'm like, I think we may have to move the research books today to a different spot.
Ah, well, good luck. Take a
I have to
picture.
get-
I have to get
But
to
you
that.
guys have a great day.